The Master Tavern Keeper's History of the Old World. Aye, indeed. The earthquakes that shook and devastated the dwarf holds of the World's Edge Mountains were no less kind to Ekrund and her mines in the foundations of the Dragonback Peaks. In their wake began the Goblin Wars, but out in the Badlands it was not armies of goblins that assaulted the mines of Ekrund. No, it was primarily orcs. Orcs under the manipulative influence of the great enchanter Drachenfels. The singular orc warlord, Argor Foespike, was the leader who led the attack, who, although a pawn of the enchanter, was no less dangerous because of that, and it was he that conquered all of the dwarf settlements located along the Dragonback Mountains, eventually culminating in the Siege of Ekrund. The Siege of Ekrund. Ekrund was wealthy and powerful by that time, and its warriors brave, disciplined, and tested in the crucible of war. But all this still in no way prepared the Dowie of the Dwarfhold for the massive orc and goblin horde that came to its gates. Argor Foespike was ruthless, cunning in as much as an orc can be, as well as strong and capable. The agents of Drachenfels had facilitated his rise through assassination and manipulation of his rivals, so as to create a warlord powerful enough to eliminate the presence of the dwarves in the Badlands.
But why, Master Tavern Keeper? Why go to all of that trouble? Why didn't he just lead an army himself to the gates of Ekrund?
Ah, well, orcs are impossible to rule. At least by anyone other than another orc. Remember what happened with the Chaos Dwarves. Goblins could be dominated by the enchanter's iron will, but not the orcs. And he needed the strength of the orcs to oust the dwarves from the region. As far as I can tell, the dwarves have unearthed something in their mining below the Dragonback Mountains, something the enchanter had long sought. Their presence was an obstacle that he needed to remove. And orcs are good at removing things. And so, the greenskin horde of Argor Foespike surged out of the Badlands and down the Dragonback Mountains in numbers unseen before and rarely since, sweeping all that lay in front of them away. It was the Minor King, Merken Ekkelson, son of Ekkel Olafsson, who wielded his father's ancient weapon, the heirloom of the kings of Ekrund, the rune pick, Bringandas, which means gold finder in Reichsbill, by the way, who led the defense. However, faced with such a foe, the result was never in question. His army fought, but was encircled. It is told that he led a desperate charge of his longbeards straight into the heart of the orc army, a death blade aimed at the throat of the orc warlord Argor Foespike himself.
Kill. Kill and kill again. Make them pay a bloody tithe.
And great was the havoc they inflicted. However, Foespike was not amongst the fallen, and the broken, dying body of the King of Ekrund was carried back to the Dwarfhold. Here he performed his last act, hiding the runepick from the besieging orc horde before breathing his last. The remainder of his army, back out in the field of battle, was soon overwhelmed without him. Each fought with grit and honor, but nonetheless, they all died to a dwarf. The Great Book of Grudges in Karazakarak records the fall of the Hold 1,490 years before the start of the Imperial calendar. However, the time bought with the heroic charge and loss of Eccleston's army was enough to give some of the population, mostly those who lived and worked near the harbour, admittedly, chance to flee out into the Black Gulf. They were crammed like caught fish in a net upon the decks of the ships of their ally, Barak Var, but they were safe, beyond the bloody reach of the invaders. In the aftermath, these survivors settled in other holds, particularly Barak Var, but also Karak Izor. Generations later, some even moved to live in human cities, even as far as Tobaro here. Back in Ekrund, the orcs wrought ruin and devastation on all they touched, drinking the famed brewery dry, slaughtering those still trapped within the hold, and taking their choice of the finest weapons and armour, although leaving much of the gold and gems, for these they do not value as we do. The ruined hold was renamed Mount Bloodhorn by the conquering orcs and goblins, who have made it into a fortress of ill repute. Its huge chambers, used to breed herds of cave squigs, which they trade with other green-skinned tribes. It is said that during the initial greenskin rapine and pillaging of Ekrund, Drakenfels walked straight into the hold unopposed, penetrating deep into its most well-guarded treasure chambers and taking all he so desired. No one knows what he took, but one thing I do know is this: he did not get his hands on the Heartstone of Aldin Getgold.